The BAFTA
There we go.
Awards controversy. So basically, what happened is the British Academy of Film and Television Arts had a ceremony on February 22nd, 2026. During the ceremony, someone who is experiencing a neurological disorder shouted out a racial slur. BBC broadcast failed to edit out this slur, and as a result, has been under fire, because quite a few other slurs, or not slurs, but other terms were removed from their later air of the award show. And they failed to edit out one. Anybody
Okay.
want to lead us off with?
You got it. You got it.
I think
You got it, RJ.
Time is now.
I think
I'm just kidding. Oh no, I thought you were gonna say what the word was. I thought that's what you were trying to
wasn't gonna say what the word was.
Okay. That's all right. You got it. You got this. You got this one.
Do I
I can say what the word was.
You know what, Rome?
It was
you
the
got
N-word.
Let's do it. Let's do it, baby. 2, 3.
Oh, they're going in. They're going hot. I can't. They're going hot.
He threw the ER in that joint. He did. He hit him with a hard R, bro. He hit him with a hard R.
The hardest of ours.
Yeah. Well, he said, bitch, nigga. I was
like both? Hey.
You guys have no
a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think most of what people were upset about was that I think the phrase that was edited out was free Palestine or something along that nature.
Yeah.
That was edited out. And yet the slur remained.
Yeah.
So Atari, I know you had a couple of thoughts you wanted to share on this one, so I'll have you take it away.
If y'all don't mind rocking with me for a minute, I have a few points that I just want to make.
That's all.
And I think there's enough room for all of us to make points. So I'm just going to come from a standpoint of being a Black American immigrant in the UK right now. So for those of you who don't know, I'm going to start by describing like the BBC. It's a publicly funded broadcasting corporation. And I think that besides blind people who have a discount, we all have to pay about £174 per year for the BBC just to watch TV. If you have a laptop, if you have a television, you have to pay money. And that goes to the BBC. So that's not the point that I want to make, though. Just wanted to say that. I wanted to talk about the BBC's Royal Charter for a minute. Now, a charter, for people who don't know, it's a document issued by an authority. In this case, it's the British government. It's a document that outlines the principles and functions of a corporate body, in this case, the BBC. So you can read everything that I'm about to say on the gov.uk site, the official gov.uk site about this charter that the BBC has written. I just like to highlight a couple things on that charter. So the mission of the BBC is to act in the public interest, serving all audiences, this is a direct quote, serving all audiences through the provision of impartial, high-quality, distinctive output and services which inform, educate, and entertain. They're always like really proud and ready and willing to remind people that they're impartial and that they take impartiality like really seriously. Whether that's like news or the forms of entertainment that they put out to broadcast. Under the heading purposes, the very first purpose of the BBC that they list is to provide impartial news and information to help people understand and engage with the world around them. I think that's great. Another purpose is to reflect, represent, and serve the diverse communities of all of the United Kingdom nations and regions, and in doing so, support the creative economy of the UK, and that they want to bring people together for shared experiences, help contribute to the social cohesion and well-being of people in the UK. And I think that the way they handled things, it wasn't a shining example at all. But the last purpose I want to point out is where it says that their purpose is to reflect the UK, its culture and values to the world. And I think that, unfortunately, with this situation and with what's been going on here lately, with all of the marches, there was just a march this past weekend in a city nearby me. There are marches and protests against immigrants and people of different colors from different countries. And I am one, I'm an immigrant. I feel that's true, unfortunately, is that um, the media is starting to reflect the culture and the values.
Yeah.
But in saying all of this, I think that in their striving to be so impartial, which also really isn't true because they got rid of the Free Palestine comment, it leaves space wide open for hate. It's like those people who say that they tolerate everyone to the point where they end up tolerating intolerance. Um, and so that night, in the BBC's mission to be impartial and not look ableist, their mistake has now taken what was supposed to be a good professional night of pride for everyone involved in the situation. And they turned it into an embarrassment for those involved. And it became the source of internet fighting, which we know there's virtually no impartiality on the internet.
Yeah.
And so, if this is how they want to reflect the UK and its culture and its values to the world, then what exactly are they saying here? My last thing that I wanted to say is that it shouldn't come to a shock that sometimes me and other Black people want to enjoy media without being reminded that people hate us.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about Tourette's or anything because we can feel empathy for everyone involved. That is possible to do two things at once. What we're talking about is the BBC's failure to safeguard people that they've put on this world stage. And that's all I have to say about that.
Well said, ma'am.
Well,
Very well said. Well done.
I
Talk that talk.
I couldn't have said it better. And like I said, I'm gonna be one of the ignorant ones here. and RJ, are you good?
Yeah, it's one singular gnat that is just terrorizing me. But I'm good. Thank
okay.
you.
Okay.
Right now.
Okay, bet. Nah, I mean, listen, man, like I absolutely, I think my biggest thing at this point, and I posted this on my personal IG, but is basically like why am I even acting surprised anymore with how easily these organizations, governments, countries, like whatever, disrespect us. Like I think it's so deeply ingrained in the fabric of what makes these countries up, like any Western country, like it's built into disrespect Black folks, and it's not going away. So when we see something like this where, again, BBC and the BAFTAs aren't holding themselves accountable and giving kind of like a throwaway apology, sorry if you were offended, because you shouldn't really be offended by this, but if you were, sorry, I get, like, it's just kind of like, okay, I had a moment of being pissed, but at the same time, I'm also like, dude, what is new? You know what I mean? And a part of me is kind of at the point where it's like, why am I still surprised by the disrespect, especially right now? Like and again, like Atari, you outlined it perfectly. All the things that are going on over in the UK, like it seems like there's a lot of a lot of parallels to what's going on over here, and it again, of course, it's seeping into the media. And when you have two people that really exude excellence in their field, in Delroy Lindo and Michael B. Jordan up there, basically representing a film that sends a very clear message about blackness and our power. It of like there's gonna be naturally there's gonna be resistance to that, and people are gonna try to dim that light. And so when it happened, I was like mad, but I was just kind of like, why? Why? I don't expect anything less. I'd be surprised if they did take accountability. I'd be like, and even then, I wouldn't trust it. I'd be like, what are you getting out of this? Because y'all have a history of treating us like shit,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is, really unfortunate because I think one of the hardest things for me with this is like I always want to be concerned about the people who have to, directly dealing with it. And, for the two amazing actors that are on the stage, I remember one time, Atari, you mentioned like, what do we have to do, to, kind of have respect. And for the two of them to be standing there on the heels of what was one of the most amazing movies, and then have to be subjected to that, have to, lock back in, because it's usually what we have to do is, oh, somebody said something stupid. All right, fine. I'm just gonna keep going with what I got going. Why do they have to accept that and then lock back in? When and there's nobody to, I don't want to say protect them, because obviously they're both, grown. I'm sure they're fully capable of protecting themselves, but I just think it's unfortunate they're there to celebrate and, be in the same room as everybody else, and it has to get pointed out and not deleted in the after. I
Bruh.
think it's
That's
just
the
It's
atrocious.
intention. That to me is intentional.
That's
Because
it.
it wasn't even live.
Or
It was-
even to be honest,
Hours
even if
away.
it's not intentional, I feel like the struggle is that it's not affecting anybody enough for it to have been intentional. Like even if,
Yes.
let's say it's an accident, right? Let's say somebody just, oh, it just slipped our minds to come in and go back for that edit, right? Why not? You know what I mean? Like this is I don't want to say hurtful, but it's somebody like
Their
degrading
reasoning,
the. I'm sorry.
they sent out an apology, and I don't think the apology was really an apology. This isn't in the actual apology, but this was an excuse that they gave, was that production was editing from a TV truck, and they didn't hear the slur because it wasn't on mic. So they just ended up missing it, but it's still on there, clear as day. Everybody else heard it. It was just an excuse. How do you miss something like that? Do you
And
know?
let's assume that that's true. You need more people on your team, because there's no way that nobody in that room didn't catch it. Messaging, hey, we need to make sure this is deleted in the after. Like, if that's the case, you have more work to do to make sure that stuff like this is not, because they sent out a notice beforehand, pretty much letting actors know, like, you will hear things that, may not be the most appropriate, but we want to make sure everybody's included, which they should. They should make sure everybody's included. But I think
Mhm.
whatever system they have going, because let's assume all of this is true, whatever system you have in place, immediately fix it, because there's no way that something like that happens in person at your event and you don't correct it, you don't rectify it, and you don't do anything to kind of show that like this isn't acceptable. We don't want you being called that on a public stage. And just I don't know, I don't really know, because I know they weren't really quote unquote affected by it. I know they asked Michael, and he said, like, I totally understand, which is usually the position we have to take, is, oh, I understand. But I think there's more that the company itself, the broadcasting service, could have done to make sure, they were respected. And
My question to that is, given everything that we know and everything that we have all experienced, why would they?
and that's really the point.
Yep.
Find out the next episode of Dragon Ball Z.
And that's, I think that we get into that a lot of episodes. You could be incredibly talented, you could be incredibly rich, you could be incredibly, but at the end of the day,
Not them.
you know what I mean? What can we, it all comes down to what can we do? And it's not a lot right now.
Yeah.
We just be there for each other.
Yeah. That's it.
That's it.
That's literally
all we
it.
can
That's
do.
it. That's it. Hence, Dirty Lemons podcast, baby.
Period.
Shouts out to this podcast.
Unity. And I did want to say this. On the topic of unity. Like, I think there is also something to, like, a big reminder. And I had this like reminder as I was leaving the gym today, which is like, we have to remember that a lot of these things that happen that get us so angry with one another and getting in arguments with is by design, because you, like, there's something to be said about, like, understanding that the more that we argue with one another, and the more that we're, like, divided, the more control the top has over us. So just remember, like, it's never really somebody said it's never like a left versus right, or black versus white, or this versus that. It's always a top versus bottom. And the top is always trying to stir things up between us with each other, so that we're divided and easier to control, like the whole, like, divide and conquer thing. That's what it is. And so it's like, if we can kind of recognize that a lot of the bullshit, because that's what it is, that makes us so angry and makes us want to lash out on people, that we have to remember the people to be mad at are the people at the top, and we have to do what we can to fight the people at the top. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that.
And
if anyone's listening to this and they're trying to get into arguments with random anonymous people online, that's not the way to move. Don't let that affect your spirit.
And I think also, I think you mentioned it a little bit earlier, but blaming, the person who said it, I think it's a hard line to do, but I don't think it's what needs to be argued here. I think completely and totally what we need to be arguing is, just making sure that things like this, of course, they're still going to happen until, we don't allow them to happen, or whatever the case is, but making sure that people are getting the respect they deserve. I feel like they don't deserve to be called the N-word on a stage where they're presenting an award. Like, I don't feel that's appropriate. I don't feel that that's something that should be easily missed or looked over.
Do you feel like the solve to that is, as black folks, we need to have, like, a unified boundary to hold people accountable? For example, if somebody does some shit like that again, as black people, we need to have some kind of leverage like to make it so, they lose something for disrespecting us. Because what ends up what ends up happening, again, because we're just not, we don't all see eye to eye on a lot of things, and what ends up happening, our money is, like, spread out across industry. What ends up happening is we end up just brushing it under the rug or giving a pass, because we may need the bag, or we may need the exposure. We need to go to these award ceremonies. In a perfect world, I'm like, listen, if that happens, Michael B. and Delroy ain't going to the BAFTAs no more. We'll just be at the BET Awards. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and again, this is kind of like a perfect world, like, very out there situation. But I do think that, like, we do need to have some kind of leverage to the point where if people continue to disrespect us as a people, we need to be able to, they have to have something to lose. And as it stands right now, they have nothing to lose by disrespecting us, because guess what? We're still going to show up to the BAFTAs next year.
You know what I think? You want to know what I honestly think? I think a lot of it is us, like, as a whole, right? Because we always say, like, black people are not a monolith. But if we take, like, as a whole, I don't think all of us are on the same wavelength.
Exactly.
About, like, the word itself. You know, some people it's like, no, I never say it. I never say it. Some people, I say it to everybody. Some people, they say it all the time. Other cultures say it all the time. Some people mind, some people don't mind. So I think, like, a lot of the reason why it seems like, it's just because I don't think as a whole, I feel like we've tried to reclaim it and, kind of make it ours. But I don't even think that we fully understand what we want from it, aside from, well, not even, I was going to say wanting to be able to say it, but some people want everybody to say it. Some people, you know, I'd say with my homies, like, it's another word for homie. Like, it's just, I
they
think
ain't
that's
had no
part of it.
OGs, man.
Nah, bro. Listen. I look at it as like family matters. It's like, listen, I don't call you honey. I call my wife honey. I don't call, you know what I mean? Like, you don't get to call me honey. It's between me and my family. Nigga is between me and my niggas. Y'all don't say this shit, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I 100% agree. And again, I was gonna say, RJ, you're in LA, so you already know. Boy.
Even on Apex.
Listen. Listen,
boy.
I live in a Mexican neighborhood. The way they be throwing that word around, boy.
Yeah.
I'm like, y'all, who gave y'all the motherfucking
Yeah. And a lot of them aren't even understanding, you know, because we understand the historical context, and we, you know, obviously feel, you know, a personal connection to the way it's used. But I think a lot of other cultures, like, you know how I think it's Samoans, they use us, and then, like, you know, other cultures use, yeah, brother, you know, like there's, I think they're thinking of it in that specific terms. And I don't think that we're like, I think that sometimes, like, because I feel like put it in music because that's your expression. But I think sometimes when people put it in music, I feel like they're not thinking that people may be receiving it that way, you know, of like, oh, it's just a term of endearment, the same way as bro, the same way as oos, the same, like all these other terms are terms of endearment. So, oh, this is theirs. If I know them and I want to feel cool with them, I'm going to use theirs, and not understanding like we have a completely different connection to. You know,
it's just like the bastardization of AAVE as well, too, though. They've put it all over the internet, and now people are using it wrong or changing meanings or adding meanings, and it isn't grammatically correct or anything. And it's like they're like, yeah, this is yours, but now it's ours, thank you. And I feel that they're trying to do the same thing with that word. It's just a word. Get over it. No.
Because
what do you mean?
Y'all changing the meaning of unk is the weirdest shit I've ever seen in my
to
entire
what?
life. So unk is
What
like
would you change it to?
uncool.
What?
Huh?
Stop.
Oh dear.
This is what they're saying.
Oh dear.
Yeah, you're unk. You're unk.
over it?
I'm old and uncool.
Listen,
Who the fuck says that?
listen.
Early the kids.
Listen, as somebody from the Bay, our lingo gets taken and redefined all the time. People use based differently. People say food slaps. Nope. Only music slaps. Like, bro, it's so but
and you know that's I feel like that's the nature of language, but I do feel like there is like, you know, obviously with certain things like trends and whatnot, like it's going to take and it's going to morph and it's going to become its own thing. But I think it's just like deciding which, because obviously there's some words in like American culture, in German culture, in other cultures that are off limits completely.
Listen, bro, I'm saying like 20, 30 years ago, people used to get beat up for saying nigga. What happened to all the ass whoop? So people
because we have no gatekeepers. We need more gatekeepers. We need more gatekeepers. We need more. No, we stopping invitations to the cookout. We stopping all of that shit.
Oh,
like
that,
seriously,
people used to get their ass whooped for saying nigga if they weren't black.
You know what I think? I think it got more prevalent in music and people because think about concerts. How do you sing along to the song?
I blame Lil Wayne. I blame Wayne. I blame Wayne. I blame Wayne.
We're shouting it out.
Listen, I'm making a vow. I don't care if I'm getting this. If I'm getting jumped. If I hear somebody who's not black say nigga, they catching a motherfucking fade. We all need to make this vow. We need to get back to how things were and get people to stop saying that shit, bro.
I remember one time I
blame Wayne
and
blame Tyler, bro.
Yeah, I feel like it's, you know, like it's one of those like type of songs, and you know, I'm like out having a good time, and the girl next to me, she open mouth. And my job, and that was what I had to offer her. I'm not a fighter, you know. I'm a gentle gal, but
You know what it is?
You know, and she
You
was
know what
like,
it is?
"Oh, girl, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just so."
No, you said that with your whole chest.
Nah, you know what it is? It's you know, I realized that there was a shift after phones and cameras because if somebody said nigga, you could knock them out and not catch a case.
Right.
Because nobody saw it. Nobody saw, and then they would have to go to court and explain what happened, or they go to somebody and explain what happened,
and then it's your word
said,
against.
And then if they said, "Well, you know, I said N-word," and they punch, oh well, yeah, we're not gonna put that out in the open. You got what you got, but now it's like you can record somebody whooping somebody's ass and be like, "I have it on film. See, they just snapped." So
it was a crime of passion.
They just it was a crime of passion. They just snapped.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, we were right there. We were right there with that whole Aiden situation. Like when he was saying all the stuff to her, like we was riding. We was definitely riding, but there's some that was tap dancing a little bit too much around them. Like, oh man, I ain't that.
And that's my point exactly.
And that is the problem. Mm-hmm. They need to whoop his ass. Oh. They really do. They need to kick his ass. No pun.
Everything
like,
is
no,
like, ass whooping. I can't. That's the point.
With a lot of stuff
because there's a lot of people who don't care enough.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, I do know that language evolves over time. It's very true. But I guess my point is that they just take and take, and now the whole internet is taking and taking and taking. And what are we left with but disrespect? It just
what we're left with? Being the mother freaking blueprint. I'm standing on that. What are you taking if there's nothing to give? We will always like. I don't feel no type of way about like. If I'm being 100%, I don't feel weird about like people taking from us because I know we are a creative people. That's who we are. We always reinvent. We always hot water cornbread.
Hot water cornbread.
Hey, we came up with water cornbread.
You know what I mean? Like when we don't have, we still create. Like that's who we are as a people, and I think that's our gift. You know, to the world is like what we bring and our energy and like all of these beautiful things that we do. So, I don't personally, I'm like they can take, but they will never. Be like
it's never going to be the same. Yeah,
it's never going to be the
same. They can always try, but they can't beat the original.
Uncool.
I'm not saying they are.
It's never going to be as cool as calling your uncle like that.
That's what I mean. That's all I meant. Is exactly what that. I heard somebody use out of pocket the wrong way, and I'm like, how?
How do you even?
But like, how? But it's just like, I know. But I do agree. In the end, it's not that big of a deal because we are so innovative and creative, and but
it
makes it my eyebrow raise sometimes. You
Happy
can't
Black
help
History Month.
Yeah,